Well, my shepherd, Pastor Charles Dowell Jr., very wise man. He is a good fisherman, so to speak, and he uses different baits for different catches. And what he did was the AR-15 was the subject of the video, but he dropped little bits of hints inside that video that made me go like, whoa, Christmas and Sunday and, Easter and different things like that. And after searching different videos in his channel, I was like, wow, this guy, my words, he's a radical. He was going against and speaking against everything I grew up as a small child knowing to believe. And so I was like, wow, I can't rebut, I can't refute, couldn't do anything to go against what he was saying, but deep down, I knew it was truth to what he was saying. Man, it was a pretty incredible moment.
Why did you feel like you couldn't refute or prove that he was wrong? I mean, what did you? Did you just say I just can't prove him wrong, or?
Well, I knew I couldn't prove him wrong because I knew that everything I believed about what he spoke about in the videos, Christmas, Easter, and Sunday, they were all just beliefs that were given to me as a child and brought up through Christian schools and whatnot.
Wow. So what impressed you about Pastor Dow, I guess, just the fact that he brought up Christmas, Easter?
His manner of life, the way they separated themselves here on his community, the things that he was doing, and he was also preparing for some sort of collapse in the United States. And I knew at the time it was a pretty big deal to me that although I wasn't searching for a biblical truth because I thought I had the truth, I realized that, hey, I was on my way to hell and taking my family with me. And that was a pretty surreal moment for me.
Did you have a way of trying to fact check what he was saying? I mean, how did you fact check that what he was saying in the first place was right or wrong, or what was your way of fact checking Pastor Dow?
I could fact check him because he would always back up with the word what he was saying. The Christian churches, they weren't doing that. My pastors, they weren't doing that. They didn't have anything to back it up.
Did you ever go back to the church or your parents and say, "Hey, I found this guy"? How did your the church you went to, your parents? I mean, how did your relatives or friends react?
In the beginning, my parents, what they would do what anybody else would do. You Google the name, and immediately you get all the negative that would come up. And the negative, for some reason, would always kind of, rise to the top quicker to some people than the truth would. You know what I mean? The negative and the lies sometimes have a louder voice than what the truth does,
So when you start hearing these negative stuff, were you aware of these negative stuff? Because you were looking at AR. Were you aware of it before your parents or your loved ones found them and brought the negative?
Some of it.
Okay.
Some of it.
Did that bring concerns about the negative?
Slight concerns, but I really, at the time, they were just comments on the internet. You know what I mean? So I couldn't fact check that. So the best thing I could do was to actually meet the man himself in person.
So when did you get to the point where you say, I want to reach out? Like, can you give us a journey of how when you reached out, made yourself known, and then actually, I mean, you're here right now, but actually physically coming here. Please share your journey.
So in 2011, Pastor was doing a lot of speaking in his videos on silver.
Okay.
And he was saying how you need to stack silver, you need to buy silver, store it. And I was like, yes, I'm going to do that. And it was February. And then February turned into June, July. And all of a sudden, silver went from, who knows where, up to $50, probably like a $20, $30 jump or so. And I was like, wow, this guy really does know what he's talking about. So 2011 was when he made a trip down to Florida, to Tampa, Florida.
Okay.
And I told my wife, hey, we're going to go meet this guy. And that's exactly what we did.
Okay. So when you met him, how was it meeting the man that you've been watching on YouTube? So you haven't even called this guy? You haven't even called
Nope, never called, just showed up.
You just showed up. Who brought him out there? Was there who brought him out there or hosted that?
Pretty sure it's Sister Carolina and her sisters at the time. Yeah.
Okay. So when you got out there, you finally got to meet the man. How was it like meeting him in person?
He was a lot different from his videos.
Okay. What do you mean different?
Different. Pastor Dowell's strong, stern man in his videos, and his method of preaching is bring the hammer down, which that's how the truth should be brought, And he was a kind and gentle man when we met him. For example, getting my wife to listen to him, I was like, hey, you need to listen to what he's saying. Don't listen to how he's saying it, but just listen to what he's saying. Because the truth was what spoke volumes to me,
Did your wife, so when she was listening, when you told her, gave her those instructions, was she like gun-ho, like, man, I want to, man, this is cool, man, great job, husband?
No, not right away. Not right away at all. It wasn't until we went over to meet him in Tampa, him and his wife, that she saw the example of what his wife was too, that spoke volumes to her. Yeah.
So how long did before you guys actually met Pastor Dow and your wife knew about this, how long was that, and how was your wife during that time before she met Pastor Dow? Was she like supportive,
She would always be supportive of me. I thought we had a good relationship. It wasn't a biblical relationship.
What do you mean it wasn't biblical?
Biblical marriage being the man.
Okay.
Patriarch.
Okay.
Patriarch.
So it was a matriarch?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Were you aware of that, or you really?
Didn't even realize it. Didn't even know.
That was just normal Christianity?
It was regular programming,
So finally when she meets him, you guys both meet him, you can tell there's a huge difference. Now when you saw him, you weren't tripping about his mannerism.
No,
you just knew there was
not
a
at all.
difference.
Yeah, there was a difference. But
did you like the difference? When you saw him, were you disappointed?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
But your wife she was a more, now did Mother Carol come to the...
Yes, she was there also.
She was there too. Okay.
She was there also.
So when you got there, how did you eventually, now you actually live in Tennessee, right? So how did that all happen? How did you get from seeing him in Florida? Did you just, tell us the story how you got your journey.
Coming to the end of flight school, I was already listening to Pastor for about a year or two, I think, at that time, and the desire wasn't really there anymore. I mean, it's always been my desire to do that, is be in aviation and be a pilot and fly. That was all I ever wanted to do. But following Christ and, being one of his disciples was a whole lot more important. You know what I mean? It outweighed that big time.
So you grew up in the Christian faith, went to college, Christian college. Even your high school, even though it was public, was multi-Christian.
It definitely was.
And then you run into Pastor Dow, not looking for him. You're very comfortable in your Christian walk, and where you feel like you had the truth.
Yeah.
Then you kind of go into this binge where you're just watching. I mean, I think what was you telling me? Like, you went back from work. I mean, what was your schedule at that time when you were watching it?
So my schedule at that time, I would get off of work about 11:30 or so, and
a.m.
p.m.
Okay.
So I'd get home about that time, and I would watch Pastor's videos for the sun would be coming up. So it would be 5, 6, sometimes 7 in the morning.
And then what would you do? Would you go right back to work? Or
I'd sleep for a bit, and then I'd go to work.
Back to work. How long did you do this for?
That happened for about 2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
And then you started keeping the commandments right there?
Not right away, but we definitely fizzled out of the Christian church big time. And I know for certain, I was like, well, this is a good reason not to celebrate Christmas this year. And so I started getting rid of stuff left and right.
So were you going to church while you were still watching Pastor Dow in that beginning?
No.
Or you were already out of the church?
Already phased out.
Because of Pastor Dow, or
because of what he taught. Because remember, I wasn't looking for any sort of biblical truth because I thought I had the truth.
So now you in Florida. When did you finally make the journey to say we're going to move to Tennessee? I mean, Florida's a nice place. You know, everybody wants to
Right?
go. I mean, I don't know about the summertime, but during the wintertime, that's where the snowbirds go from Wisconsin.
They do. So we had a fellowship in Florida,
Okay.
and we would all come together on Shabbats or sometimes every other Shabbat, and we'd fellowship with
Okay.
one another. And some of the saints were moving, and it dawned on me at the time too, like there's nothing here for us to stay for, you know.
Mhm.
So I think we were there for about a year or so after that, and I asked myself the question, why do I need to stay?
Mm.
What's keeping me here? Had a good job, comfortable job, and it just wasn't as important as being around Yah's people,
Mm.
you know, being around people that have already done what I wanted to do, and them being an example for me.
Mm.
So in the Christian church, you would never hear them talk about or teach about living a biblical life,
Mm.
about setting yourself apart and being sold out for Christ.
Mm.
And their dedication to it was, man, it was inspiring to me.
Mm.
And I wanted to be a part of it in whatever way I could possibly be a part of it. And definitely encouraging, you know, seeing the grassroots of where they came from, the sacrifices they made, and it was a big light for me because it gave a new meaning to the word a living sacrifice.
Mm.
Continuous sacrifice is what you see here, and it just encouraged me to try to be the same, you know.